Hello, so I was back in Singapore in April and really wanted to cook with my dad, and so he taught me this recipe. In Singapore we call this dish Shao. The Cantonese also call it Siew, and in English it would be called roast pork. So we got a slab of pork belly from the butcher's, and the first thing we did was put it skin side down and score the back of it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to chuck a bunch of, this is Chinese 5 spice, where you're seeing that brown powder right now. So Chinese 5 spice powder is made of star anise, cloves, cinnamon, Sichuan peppercorns, and fennel seeds. I think for ours, instead of Sichuan peppercorns, it was white peppercorns. That works as well. So we are marinating the bottom side of the pork belly slab, and we're gonna get it in all the crevices, make sure we're not missing any spots. So that tool that you're seeing right now is a meat tenderizer. If you don't have one, you can use a fork as well. It works the same, you just have to work a little bit harder. So these little pockets that you're creating by bashing the skin of the pork belly with the meat tenderizer or a fork creates these holes or gaps where once you put it in the oven later, it allows air bubbles to occupy the spaces, and that causes the skin of the pork belly to rise, and that's how you get that like nice fluffy crisp at the end. So we're just gonna let that marinate in the fridge overnight, and we'll skip ahead to the next day. Alrighty, so the first thing we did when we took it out of the fridge the next day was to wrap it in aluminum foil. For all the Americans out there, I'm saying aluminum foil, just in case you got lost in translation. We made sure to cover the sides because the only part that we wanted to expose was the skin, because we want the skin to be dry and crispy, whereas we want the rest of the meat to be nice and moist and juicy and retains all the liquid that comes from the pork. Then we're gonna brush a thin layer of white vinegar on the skin side of the pork, just on the surface. This would help to crisp up the skin when it's in the oven later. We're gonna follow that by covering the skin with a layer of coarse salt crystals. This would help dehydrate the skin when it's in the oven, and that will allow the skin to crisp up, because if the skin is too wet, if you apply heat to that, it won't be crispy and it won't get to that texture that you need it to be. After we got a layer of vinegar and salt down on the surface of the skin, we are going to put it in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius for an hour, and we're just going to let the oven do its thing. After an hour in the oven, we're going to take out the piece of pork belly and we're going to scrape off all the salt on the surface. Then we're going to transfer the pork belly out of the aluminum foil and onto a baking tray. Then it's going to go back into the oven at a lower temperature of 160 degrees Celsius. We're going to change our oven setting to broil and just get that crispiness on the skin, and that's all we're trying to achieve right now. We're going to leave it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. About halfway through, rotate the piece of pork belly 180 degrees, just so that all areas of the skin are covered during the broiling process. And there we go. After about an hour of cooking and a day of marination, we have our beautiful piece of sao. Tastes amazing as well. Like, I tried it, my dad made it, and it was just absolutely brilliant. And I remember when I bit into it, the meat was juicy, the skin was crispy, there was a nice crunch into the whole entire bite, followed by a really soft texture from the meat. So give this recipe a go and let me know how it tastes and whether you enjoyed the process of making it.